So the word here is giving gifts that change people. You have a brilliance in you. Your contribution is valuable, and the art you create is priceless. So the provocation, giving gifts that change people, in me, it has me saying, oh wow, this book is impactful. So I'm reading Malcom Gladwell's Linchpin book, sent to me by a dear friend, and really meant as a gift. The book itself as a gift. I'm so grateful. I'm so very grateful for that. So then I'm wondering, well, how can I share just what this is giving to me? There's a way of thinking about how we approach the day to day. I'm looking at this sign my mother sent me. I'm not sure if this is going to be mirror imaged or not. I think it will be. So it says, today is a gift. And today is a gift. And now that's on the receiving end. But how do we think about then the idea that our interactions, our investments, our engagements with each other, investments of everything we might put into something, and staying away from and backing out from the idea of an investment as putting in with expectation of greater return. So put that aside in the conversation around gifts, to view a gift as something that I in some way produce or simply share in whatever kind of base or extrapolated complex nature you want to think about what it might mean to share a gift. Share an idea, share a thing, or share an emotion. So then the framing of gifts becomes thinking about the sharing without a intention of getting a return, without any kind of association. So the Greek word for this is agape love, which is this unconditional pouring out. Agape is the absolute greatest gift that exists. It's the greatest type of gift because it is unconditional. It is not seeking a return. It is wholly invested in the quality of the gift, being of a kind of positive, transformative experience for the one who receives it. And that's what in this Gladwellian framing of gifts defines a gift, that final piece of transformation. The gift is something given that ends up transforming someone, reframing the way they are feeling, seeing, perceiving, offering them something they didn't have before, or maybe they did, but nonetheless offering them something that they can use to reforge themselves. And so then when that happens, intentionally or unintentionally, when there is an emotion stirred up a new thought in any direction, that's when the thing becomes the gift. And it's very quite a beautiful way to consider what we are offering up every single instant. To others, yes. To our environment, yes. Also, here's something interesting. You can see this is coming around to ourself. And if you didn't see, now you see. So what kind of gifts am I offering up to myself? I was thinking about that going to sleep last night. And I had a flash all of a sudden of my entrance across the threshold of my humble apartment that I share with my wife here in Bridgeport. And I saw myself stepping in and then being greeted by the atmosphere. An atmosphere that I am a steward of, an atmosphere that I create, that I both establish, I govern, I maintain it. So when I come through that door, whatever is going on in the atmosphere is going to be a gift unto me. Or it could be. It could be something that transforms my experience there. So if I am able to step into this space, and Malcom Gladwell relates this idea of art being indispensable, being a linchpin, being one who's able to have a generous spirit, one who's able to have an agape nature. He ties that to marketplace dynamics, to the emerging economic reality that we are in which we are stepping even further. And he paints this argument that we must adopt a linchpin mentality, really whether we want to or not, if we're motivated by either just wanting to for the sake of it, or by the want of security, or whatever he goes at length discussing the resistance, the lizard brain, that lower back part of the head attached to the brainstem that really wants us to survive, and all of the kind of fear or otherwise safety governing functions that part of our neural network has on keeping us from stepping out, what we might perceive as stepping out of the norm of the marketplace or of society, differentiating ourselves, making ourselves and our ideas vulnerable to attack, which affects our emotion, because not surprisingly, the ideas that we cherish most, that we are really wanting to protect from criticism or the reality that they didn't work out or what have you, those things we're emotionally attached to because they are something of art to us. They're creative. We have value in them because we just feel that they're special. And so it's not surprising that we want to protect those things. And it's not surprising that the fear of failure or the want of being socially in with the tribe will limit our expression of those things. There's a lot in the system and the way it's structured, the educational system, for instance, that develops our comfort with engaging in our artistic self, develops that out of us, or at least it develops a lot of other mental models that kind of restrain that, to keep us in a more sort of efficient factory worker style social construct that then we perpetuate by being afraid of those, oh, let me be creative and make myself vulnerable kind of things. And that's how a lot of it is. So, okay, how do we just sort of look at that and honor that and say, well, okay, so what then? But then he goes on to argue that we actually need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We need to get comfortable with bringing our art to work, actually manifesting our art, and then that is our work at work. So in your employment, but in your home and any sphere of society, because of the way our social and economic structure is shifting to one where a lot of the forces that have changed our production in our economy to, say, automate them, have left us in a space where economically creativity, not necessarily thinking outside the box. Malcolm paints an interesting perception on that much used concept where being outside the box is just being outside of everything and all definitions, and it's kind of difficult to make relevant work out there, which for art to be art in society, it has to be received. It has to be received in a way that transforms. And so then art is operated in the box. It might shift, rearrange the boundaries, certainly. So then, given the way these changes are occurring, the marketplace is valuing one who can bring that ability to share without the want or need or expectation of return. In just their MO, their way of being, because then it's going to happen in their work too, and that's where the real emotional connection is happening, and that's where the real value is generated, is in one who can operate in that space. So then that's all very compelling, and then thinking about that, even if it's in a kind of selfish term, what does it mean for me to think about my personal economy? And how am I setting myself up to receive gifts of love? And to really just take them and let them transform me. And circling back to crossing the threshold of my space. What I felt in that moment, and what is very real to me right now, is that the conditions I create for myself in the future, and my investment now into that future, can be one of love, and can be one that sets me up later to just receive gifts, delightful joys. On the granular, that looks like I'm doing the dishes because I love myself. I'm doing the dishes because I love my wife. And a lot of the motivation in me keeping up our shared space is out of a love for her. Now, a lot of it is out of a sense of obligation. Like, I need to maintain, like, in such a way, and that's real. That's part of the the deal of being together with someone, whether an intimate spouse or a roommate or a sibling. You share a space. You need to do your part. It's part of the civic deal on the neighborhood. That's why you pick up trash. You didn't put the trash there, but it's there. What are you just going to leave it there because you didn't put it there? Do you have any stewardship over your space, over your locality, over your neighborhood? And a lot of times it's easy to not feel like we do. But then what are we doing? Do we even want to do something together? So that's another conversation to have. I am entirely convinced that glorious things and communities of joy and creativity and friendship and love, who are communities who are able to experience that kind of dynamic exchange, are the ones worth living for. Those are the ones worth us creating. The alternative direction, not that it's just this dichotomy, but it's communities of individualistic, like whomevers, who don't care for the other, who don't feel invested in their shared space, and really everything then becomes a transaction. Then it's just totally like, well, the city has to clean this up. You know, there's a cup on the ground. No, I'm not touching it. The city has to clean this up. In the direction we go in, city services are epically important. There's so many things that I can do on my own, and some things are too heavy for 40 of us to lift. So yeah, city services are epically important, but the end of that line is one where generosity and free, loving creativity doesn't exist, at least in whatever pocket of society where that the end of the road is met. And that's not a space that I want to entertain or induce in the slightest. I'm going the other way. I'm going to 95th. You know, maybe you're going to Howard, but I'm going to 95th. It's a Chicago Red Line reference. So on the road to 95th is where I'm going, where I want to encourage all of us to go. And the revelation of my personal space was one that, you know, let me do the dishes for myself. It's really like that. Let me come home to a space that is clean, and then a space where I'm not worrying about all this and that needs to be picked up or what have you, but I've already taken care of it, and I've actually paved a way for myself to experience an even more free flow of whatever my creativity is, whatever my inclination is, whatever it is that I want to do. It's like, how often do I come home and I haven't done the thing that's been on my to-do list for a couple days, and then it's still just sitting there. It's like this big old truck sitting in the middle of the runway. In my head, how am I gonna go and be like, okay, yeah, today let's take off, let's do this, and let's go have another kind of adventure. Let's do that next thing that I want to do when this big truck is sitting there in my way. It's hard to actualize the lifting off when the thing is in the way. So right now, I am grateful to be in a position to share what gifts I may, and may this be a gift to you.